When I learned these 6 stages of high ticket sales calls, that's when I took my first coaching business to 20 grand a month back in 2017, which was helping wedding photographers grow their business. And then I took a marketing agency to 50 grand a month in recurring revenue in 2019, 2020, serving, online business owners. And then I took a how to start a marketing agency coaching business to 80 grand a month back in about late 2020, 2021-ish, all of which every single business that I have started and grown has followed this 6 stages framework for sales calls. And in this video today, I'm really going to be taking my time to detail these 6 stages of high ticket sales. And I'm even going to give you a script in the description and everything that you can utilize. And I'm going to talk about intent bookings versus non-intent bookings, because there's really 2 types of sales calls that you'll generate. So I'm going to get right into things. And, this is just so you know, sort of proprietary information that I usually train our clients on. And obviously we go way deeper. We relate it to their specific business and everything. But in this particular video, I'm just going to be giving away the farm and showing you exactly how to take somebody from a booked meeting on your calendar to a $2,000 to $20,000 sale by the end of a 45 to 60 minute meeting without doing anything unethical, without making any over-the-top promises or relying on guarantees or hard selling, or without using any hype or, making any promises you can't keep. Okay, so this is going to be a really, really powerful piece of training. I want you to stick around until the very, very end of this video. Throughout this video, I'm going to give you resources that you can utilize in the description, and just to build some authority for myself so you understand, I've taken well over 10,000 high ticket sales calls, and I've really refined this process down to some sort of a blend of an art and a science. There's something right here in the middle of kind of how to think about high ticket sales that I want to sort of be able to download into your brain in this training. So we're gonna get right into it. I'm not gonna skip a beat. Let me get right to the 6 stages. So, actually before I do that, there's really 2 types of bookings, okay? And it's really important that we differentiate. There's intent bookings and there's no intent bookings. Okay, so no intent bookings or non-intent bookings are bookings that, and nobody really taught me this, it's just something I kind of put together in my head. Non-intent bookings, you need to build intent, and these will usually be 2 call enrollments. 2 call enrollments. This is where on the first call, you really maybe add some value, give them some trainings, get to know them, understand them a little bit, and then you tactfully set up an intent booking at the end of that booking. And this will be somebody who schedules a 15 to 30 minute call, and they're not here to really necessarily buy anything, but you kind of add value, get to know them, understand the situation. You should really do a discovery process, which I'll dive deeper into a discovery process here in this video. And then at the end of that first meeting, you set up a second meeting using a line something like, hey, you know what? I hate to be forward, but you remind me a lot of one of my clients who I've gotten the chance to work with. Their name is blank. They're a lot like you for these reasons, either character traits that remind you of them or situational traits that remind you of them. Would you like to, progress and grab another meeting soon? And maybe talk about becoming a client, as long as it makes sense. Obviously, we're not going to do anything that doesn't make sense. 99% of the time, they're going to be like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. And then you set up that intent-based meeting. Intent is really whether they are aware that they're here to buy or not. Are they aware of buying or not? That's what intent is. If they don't have intent, then you can create intent by adding value, getting to know them, understanding them, and just relating their story to somebody that you gotten the chance to work with. And that's when I say it's a bit of an art as much as it is a science. And this is where you have to really deeply understand your clients, their relationship with your business, and be able to really relate what you're learning about this individual to somebody else. People buy off of emotion and justify with logic. So if you can help them see that somebody that you've done business with is like them, then they'll be like, oh, okay, maybe I'm interested in doing this, and they'll move forward. Now, once you have the intent-based booking, that's when these 6 stages come into play. Okay, and if your business isn't getting intent-based bookings, that's fine, just introduce a 2-call process. But if it is getting intent-based bookings, which it really should, then these 6 stages really come into play. So stage 1, 2, 3, let me zoom out here, 4, 5, and 6, okay? So stage 1 is break ice, and set the agenda. Now, breaking the ice. One of the things that, and I've gotten the chance to train a couple of sales teams now and work with companies. One of my clients, they went from 40 grand a month to 250 to 300 grand a month. And one of the big things that really helped them dial in is kind of this stuff. One of the things that they were kind of doing on their calls, and you can find their interview on my channel. You can look. I'll have my editor link in the description if you're curious about that. One of the things that I noticed that they were doing is they weren't really leading on their calls. Their sales reps were kind of being reactive instead of proactive. So what you kind of got to do is when somebody comes on, I like to be the first to speak. I like to kind of set the tone of the energy of the room. Now, if the prospect's really low, then I'll match that energy and try and bring it up later. But I like to kind of be in charge and lead. And I break ice by not asking stupid stuff, but like really trying to quickly build a relationship with the person that I'm speaking to. You know, this looks like a number of things. This looks like pointing out an object in the background. This looks like taking the time to find something that you relate to, or if they included their website or some sort of information about them in the description of the booking, visiting that website before and seeing if there's any sort of a common denominator, asking where they're from, if they grew up there. That sort of stuff is usually safe. And what I like to do is really tie down that they're good to go. So when I say set agenda, after I've broken the ice, built a little bit of rapport, maybe cracked a joke, or, you know, just done something that kind of defeats the air in the room, I like to actually ask permission. What I'll do is I'll say, hey, if you're good to go, I can kind of kick us off and we can get started if you're ready. And they'll say something like, yeah, sure, sounds good. And what that does is it gets them to consent to the frame that I'm now going to set for the meeting. Throughout your sales calls, frame is a theme. And if you're not in the leadership frame, then the call is just gonna go wherever it goes. And I've found a lot of coaches, consultants, agency owners, especially ones who are just getting started, and especially ones who have real expertise and think that just because you have expertise that people are gonna buy. Those are usually the ones that I've found what they do on their calls is they just coach. They coach, and then if somebody buys or doesn't buy, it's like up to the wind, you know what I mean? And I found that if you coach on your calls, you destroy the sale. They will never buy if you coach on your calls because you're alleviating the pain and you're giving them a tiny little sense of what it would look like to work with you, and it's a total shot in the dark as to if they actually like that or not. Okay, so you don't coach, none of that. You maintain frame, and you ask questions that lead to the sale, which is the next 5 steps. So we really kick off the call at this stage. Kick off by asking permission. Hey, if you're good to go, I can kind of get us started. So I like to interrupt the rapport and the kind of the fun stuff with, hey, if you're good to go, I can kind of get us started if you're ready to rock. And if you ever book a call with me or my team and we quote, use this on you, just know it's just what we do. You know what I mean? And if you wanted to run it a different way, I mean, hey, we could probably do that too. But this is usually what we do. Okay, and this is a framework that'll get you 90% of the way. All right, so the second stage is making sure that they understand how you're gonna run the call. So what we do here is, and this is probably sort of more like the first stage still, but kind of going into the second stage. So here's how this call is going to go. And I'll tell them how the call is going to go and I'll get their agreement. And if they're in agreement with that, then we can run a great meeting. And this first 60 seconds is so critical for running a successful meeting that it's insane. So and if you don't do this, then you'll lose a majority of your sales. What I like to say, and this is what I've learned to say after, 10,000 or more sales calls now for different businesses, and I learned this from a mentor of mine and I kind of refined it for myself. It's something like, if you're good to go, I get started, they say sure, and I say cool. So here's how the call is going to go. What I'd like to do today, and you just let me know if this sounds good, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and really try and understand, where you're at and where you're coming from and all the details that kind of make up your situation. And then what we're going to do is, towards the end of the call, as we've gotten to know each other and you've gotten to know me and ask me some questions, if it's a good fit to get you started in our program or our offer, our service, or whatever it is that you do, we'll just go ahead and get you started today on the meeting. We'll collect your payment, we'll get you through, and we'll set you up within our system. Something like that, right? Something where you're literally making sure that they're aware that there's a decision point. Awareness of decision point. If they're not aware of the decision towards the end, they're not going to make a decision towards the end, even if you nail every other piece of the call. What's important here is you have a very relaxed, natural energy. You're not trying to force a decision. You're just trying to say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. I've noticed a lot of people, when you don't do this, you nail the call and they hit you with, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to come back to you later. I'm going to go compare options, whatever, because you didn't set that precedent. They're going to make a decision. But what you do is you release the pressure of this by saying, but obviously, if it's not a good fit or either one of us feels like it's not really a good option, then obviously we won't do anything today. I'll just send you some free resources, maybe make a connection for you or something else. But if it is a good fit, and I wrap it around again, making sure that they say yes to this, if it is a good fit, then I'm going to get you started today on the call. Sound good? And then they 90% of the time say, yes, it sounds good. 10% of the time, what they do is they'll say, no, I'm actually not really ready for that right now. I'm just kind of looking around. In which case you go back to the 2-call framework for a non-intent booking, where you say, okay, that's totally fine. Let's just kind of get to know each other and maybe I can send you some free stuff and, no decision to be made today. And you kind of back off and you go back into, okay, this is a non-intent booking. And non-intent bookings, again, you go back to that framework of, let's just add some value, get to know them, towards the end, relate their situation or character traits to a client that I've gotten the chance to work with, and set an intent meeting after. So that's the second stage, is really kick off the call and get on the same page with what you're here to do. Third stage of a successful sales meeting is what is called current situation discovery. Let me draw a better C. Current situation discovery, okay? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand where somebody is now and why they don't want to be in there anymore that's motivated them to book a call. I'll always start off after I've gotten their consent. You'll notice the first 2 stages is like 60 seconds, maybe 60 to 120 seconds. Like these 2 stages are the most important right here, because if you nail these, then everything else is so much easier. After this point, what you're trying to do is you're trying to uncover where they are now, where they want to get, what's stopping them from getting there on their own that has them willing to potentially make an investment, why this goal is personally and professionally important to them, and then why where they are now isn't satisfying to them personally or professionally as well. So I call this the, current situation, why not? Desired situation, why is that important? And what's stopping you from doing it on your own without me or somebody like me? Or I'll even ask the question, like, what's stopping you from doing this on your own that has you willing to make an investment if it's a good fit? And, then they'll just open up. So what we're doing is in this stage here, the 3rd stage, we're understanding where they are now. And by the way, throughout this whole process, we have a curious, I'm spelling it wrong, curious energy. We're not trying to make a sale. We're detached from a sale. We're kind of mentally attached to a proper and right understanding of somebody's situation, so that come the 6th stage, when we make an offer and we make that enrollment, it's a convicted offer and a convicted enrollment. One of the things that I've trained my clients on that has really aided them in this journey of getting good at, selling a $2,000 to $20,000 ticket thing is really train them, hey, don't sell them on your thing. Sell yourself on their potential with your thing. And so once we're going into current situation discovery, we're asking questions that help us understand where they're at now. My first question is always, moving from stage 2 to 3, so what motivated you to spend some time with me today? And what happens is they'll just open up and they'll just start to share, okay, so this is kind of where I'm at, this is why I'm here. And sometimes they'll answer this in like this way of like telling you what marketing they saw that had them book a call. And you just want to shut that down. So you just be like, no, I'm sorry, let me ask this again. I want to understand you and why you were here. Not so much what you saw that got you here, but more so why you decided to spend time with me in the first place at all. And because sometimes they'll answer it of like, well, your email got me, or well, I saw your YouTube video, or well, I've been following you on Instagram for a while, or whatever, right? That's not what we're looking for. And so we get them to open up a little bit. And what you do here is you do not respond quickly. Your best lines here are, tell me more about that. Help me understand this. Could you open up on what you said here? Help me understand this thing. I'm not really sure I understand. And you're not moving forward unless you really feel like you understand the person. What's critical here is building a true understanding of the individual that you're speaking to and really feeling like you could walk a mile in their shoes by the end of this current discovery process. And this will take, maybe 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. It's not a quick process by any means, but once you feel like you understand them, what's interesting is when you feel like you understand somebody, then that feeling of being understood transfers. And one of the principles of selling anything is people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care, or they don't care how much you understand until they feel understood. Right? So it's really important that at the 3rd stage here of current situation, we're just understanding them. We're not talking all about the future. We're not hearing about their goals yet. We're not hearing anything about that. We're hearing where they've been for the past 3, 6, 12, 24 months, what that's been like. And the most important thing is why that's not where they want to be anymore, because that's what's going to motivate them to make a change. This gap right here is the reason why people buy anything. The perceived gap between where they are now and where they want to get. Right? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to just create a separation between that now and between the desired, so that we can, slide our offer in between and create a motivated decision to change or to make a difference or whatever, and to actually do something about it. So current situation, good questions are, so tell me about the past 6 months so far for you and what that's looked like in regards to X journey. So like if you have a business offer in regards to your business journey, in regards to if it's a health thing, your health journey, if it's something like your relationship or marriage, your marriage journey, or your relationship, whatever, getting that clarity right then. And they'll just start to open up. So you notice how open-ended these questions are. These are not Q&A, like back and forth, like ask a question, you answer, ask a question, you answer. I found a lot of people, they end up there, and that's not good. That's not an open, cohesive environment where the person feels like they are really getting understood here. There's this back of their head thing that's important to them, and whatever that thing is, that's what's going to motivate them to buy. So your best rule of thumb here is shut up and listen. That's current situation discovery, and you know that you've done current situation discovery when in between stage 3 and 4 here, which I'll get into stage 4 here, you can repeat back to them what you've learned about them. And they say, yep, that's me. You get me. You understand me. I like to say, help me understand this more about you. I don't want to really move on until I really get this. I'll literally just like sit there and just try and understand this person's business, or even like the personal reasons why they're trying to build this business. I've sold other offers as well. Like, there for a while, I was promoting a self-image reprogramming offer, which I'm planning on promoting again because it was really, really fun. I sold like 15, 20 grand of it before I turned it off because it was just kind of a distraction. And it was the same exact sales process. It was like, all right, tell me about kind of where you are right now. And we had people who, they had, and this is like a non-ROI offer. So it wasn't like people would make their money back if they bought. You know what I mean? It was people who were struggling in their relationships, or were struggling in their health, or were struggling in their careers, or their businesses as well. And I just used the same system. So I repeat back to them what I've learned. It's like, okay, John, so tell me if this is you. And I just want to make sure I understand you before I really move on here. You are here, you've been here for this long, that is having this effect on you professionally. This is kind of what you've been experiencing, and these are the things that you find have been kind of holding you back, and these are the things that are really in the way right now, and this is kind of what you've been experiencing. So I'm just detailing what I've learned using their language so that they really feel like I listen and I care, because I do listen and I do care. That's the big ticket secret. And then once you can repeat it to them and they say, yep, you get me, that's when you kind of transition from stage 3 to 4. What I like to do is once they say, yep, you get me, I like to move from stage 3 to 4 and say, okay, cool. Now that I feel like I kind of understand where you're at, then I'd like to talk a bit more about the future if you're down. I want to understand really where you want to get so that I can be sure that what I do can slot in and help you get there. And they'll say, yep, sounds good. And I'll kind of be like, all right, so help me understand 12 months from now, where would you like to be in regards to blank? So, with other, depending on the offer, help me understand your goal with your health, your relationship, your fitness, your whatever, right? And they'll say something like, well, I don't know, what's realistic, right? And they always say something like that. And I always encourage them to say, what's the ideal? Because I want to know if I can help you get that ideal. So you want them to share the ideal. What's the ideal scenario 8 to 12 months from now? And I like 8 to 12 months because it's far enough out that there's a lot of potential that they don't shut down something that actually excites them and try to answer, quote, reasonably, but it's also short enough that it can motivate a change. Like if you're like 5 years from now, like that's too long for the average person. And 3 months, that's too short for them to say a number or a reality that is exciting to them. So, 12 months is kind of the thing that I like to explore. And what I like to do is, if I feel convicted that with what we do, or just with a better system or better approach, they can reach that goal, then what's critical here is 2 things. A, if they're shooting low, call it out. Make sure they're shooting higher. Make sure they're aware of the potential that they could be reaching, and don't let them settle. And then B, if they're shooting reasonably at a goal that's motivating to them, or you've raised that bar of what they're potentially capable of, make sure they feel your intense confidence that they can achieve this. Okay, and this is where you kind of get into your own intention here. You can seriously sell anything with this format, so you have to run ethically, okay? And if you believe that they can reach that outcome, then you have to just boldly say, look, I'll be honest with you, I think that's really more than doable for you. And then what I like to do is, after I tell them that it's doable for them and I help them understand that they can totally reach that, I kind of map it out. I understand why it's important, this personal and professional. I'm not just understanding where they want to get, I'm trying to understand why it's important that they get there, and what would happen if they don't get there. And why, just really exploring this so that I'm creating a lot of separation between the now and the goal. And creating this separation creates potential energy, for lack of a better term, almost a physics term. In physics, there's like kinetic energy, potential energy, right? This is like decision-making potential energy. By creating decision-making potential energy, by separating the now from the desired state, we're creating this almost this bow that's being pulled back, and it's ready to launch an arrow if you make a good offer that makes sense for them. So good questions at the stage 4 here is, okay, help me understand kind of why this is important. Draw a good day in the life of if we were able to solve this for you. Help me understand, what it would look like for you personally, what other effects on your life it would have if we're able to reach this outcome. There's an order of consequences here. There's the first order consequence, which is they solve the problem that you offer. But then there's the second and third order consequences of what effect it's going to have on their life once they solve that problem. So it's not just about, if you have an offer that helps people make money, for example, it's not about making money. It's about what that money can do for them. Or if it's a weight loss offer, just as a very generic example, it's not about losing the weight. It's about what losing the weight will do for them, for their for their marriage, their dating life, for their relationship with certain people in their life, their energy levels, their career, whatever, the respect they get from their boss. I don't know, whatever's important to them. This is why it's so important, if we go back to stage 3 here, that we shut up and freaking listen. Because if we don't do these things and we aren't really exploring these things with them, then we've set the precedent on the meeting that when we get to the goal setting stage, they're not really going to share the full thing. They're not really going to give us that thing that is really important to them. Okay, and if they don't give that to us, then we have a much lower chance of creating a sale here, because it's important that they don't just share a goal, but they share why that goal is important, what it would do for them, why they want it, what other effects it's going to have on their life, the second, third order consequences of solving this. And we're just really irritating that gap, that sense of discrepancy between the current and the desired, and just really pushing them further and further out. Once you've done that, once you've really established a good, clean, current, and desired, again, what I like to do is I like to kind of repeat back to them, again, everything I've learned. And I don't do this in more than like 15 seconds. Like, okay, so you're here, and you really don't want to be there anymore for these reasons. And you'd like to get there for these reasons. Is that you? And then they tell me yes. Okay, and this is where it's so important that I've actually listened and I actually freaking care about my prospects. This is where it's so difficult, I found, I can't just like install care into you. You have to actually have a love for what you do. And I've got other videos on this channel about how to cultivate a good, healthy relationship with what you do as a coach, consultant, agency owner, so that you do these things. Okay, so I say you're here, you don't want to be anymore. You want to get here for these reasons, and this is kind of why you want to do it. Is that correct? Is that you? And they say yes. Then I move on to stage 5 here, which is what I call the golden question. And I'm going to kind of separate this a little bit and find another area here. Okay, so the golden question is really important. So what we're doing is, like I talked about, we've got the now, we've got the why they can't themselves, and we've got the goal. We've got the personal and professional reasons why the now isn't working for them, and we've got the personal and professional reasons why the goal is important to them. We've got all of this information now. So now it's time to slot in and do the most important thing I would say in the entire call, which is, okay, help me understand. This is after we've told them that we've heard them, we get them, we've repeated back to them where they are now, why they don't want to be there anymore, where they want to get, why they want to get there. What's stopping you from going from where you are now and all the reasons you don't want to be there anymore to where you want to get and all the reasons you want to get there on your own, that has you willing to make an investment if it feels right? That's the golden question, right? Because now they're going to give you this list of reasons why they haven't been able to bridge that gap yet themselves. And at this point, this is where, if you have a lot of expertise in what you do, you can slot in your own reasons why you believe they won't be able to reach it themselves. And I like to just make sure we have a really nice stack of reasons, because what we're going to do is we're going to use these reasons in a moment and relate them to what we do with our services, our programs, our products, whatever it is. And we're going to explain to them how we're going to craftily, solve each of them. Sometimes they'll just say one thing. Sometimes they'll just be like, oh, I don't know what I don't know, right? Or they'll say something like, well, I've tried this and it just hasn't worked. And again, just like the current situation discovery phase where we're understanding, where they are now, we're not going to settle for surface level answers here. We're going to try and get the real stuff. And so we don't settle. We ask, we probe, we understand. And then at that point, my favorite line is, look, I don't want to be too forward with you, but if these things are true, that these are the reasons why you can't get there on your own, then I think you'd make an incredible client. And you remind me a lot of, if you have a client that's like them, use it here. This person who I took from where you're at or similar to where you're at to a place like where you'd want to get. Or if you don't have that client, that's fine. Then all you got to say is, I know that you could get to that outcome if you had a better system or a better process, et cetera, right? And that's where you kind of go into kind of the pitch. And this is where, if you're not careful, you can create a lot of sales resistance. That's the 5th stage, is the golden question stage. The 6th stage is simple pitch and enroll. Now, the way that you go about this, or the way that I've learned to go about this, is what you do is, if you have clients, you relate their story to those clients, and then you answer any questions they have about the program in this sort of a fashion. So they'll ask questions like, so how long is this? And what I'll do is I'll answer the question, but I will make sure to loop the question back to the outcome that we've discussed and the simplicity of how what I'm going to do is going to solve at least one, maybe up to 3 of the reasons we discussed that they can't get there on their own, okay, based on the golden question. So they'll ask questions, and I'll just loop back to the outcome. They'll be like, how long is the program? I'll be like, for example, well, it's 4 months, and you get access to this, this, and this, But honestly, John, you told me that the main thing for you is this. I think if we just knock this out, you're gonna get to outcome, right? And so we kind of loop it back to outcome. And it's important to do that because if you don't, then you get the prospect into what is called feature brain. And feature brain destroys all of the progress that you've made in the call so far. Feature brain is like, how long is it? Is there a contract? Are there any people like me? How much access to you do I get? It's all these feature-based questions. Whereas where we want to keep them is in outcome brain. So what we're doing, we're not dodging questions. That's not what I'm telling you to do. You never dodge questions. That's lame. That's stupid. What you do is you answer the questions honestly and thoroughly and make sure they understand what it is that they're buying, and then you loop it back to the outcome. So if they say, hey, is there a contract that I can see? Like, yeah, sure, I'll pull up the screen, show them the contract. And then I'll be like, but honestly, John, like you said, when I asked you what's stopping you from getting there on your own, you said that you really just need a better system for your sales calls because you're booking 3 a day right now and you're closing like 1 out of 10. If we just double that, and get that from 1 out of 10 to 2 out of 10, so 10% to 20%, that doubles your business, okay? And so what I do is I loop it back to a worst case scenario outcome. Worst case scenario outcome. Like, if we just solve one of the things that you brought up, then we're gonna get you to that outcome, right? And you wanna do this in a way where you make it about them. You make it about the first, second, third order consequences of solving the problem and what they've really told you today. So what's gonna happen is they're gonna ask, 2 to 5, questions, and you're just gonna loop them to that. You're gonna answer them thoroughly and then loop them back to the outcome or even a worst case scenario outcome. And then eventually they're gonna ask you the price. And this is where you state the price and you're just quiet, because you've answered everything that's important to them. If you go through a pitch, like a set of slides or something, this is where you can really lose what's important to them. This is where I've seen a lot of companies lose what's important to the prospect. And if you don't have the ability to relate what's important to the prospect to the product, then you're gonna lose a majority of your sales, right? Or they're gonna buy for the wrong reasons. They're not gonna be satisfied. Then you state price, and this is where I say enroll. You state the price, you're quiet, and then about 60-70% of the time, they're gonna be like, all right, let's do it, unless there's a financial issue. If there's a financial issue, then the way that I like to handle that is I like to uncover their finances a little bit, see if it's truly a financial issue. I isolate the objection. I make sure it's truly a financial issue and not an offer issue. If it's an offer issue, then I kind of go back to what they've told me today about everything that they've said. And if it feels like a mismatch, then I let them go. If it's a financial issue, however, what I like to do is set up a follow-up call for 2 to 3 days from now and just help them get the finances together. That's usually how I do it. Some people, they try and work around the financial issue on the call, but oftentimes I can create a lot of buyer's remorse, and I'm personally not the biggest fan of doing that. So that's kind of how you do it, right? So this is kind of my framework. And now it's not perfect, and you can see looking at my screen here, it's a little messy, but it works like crazy. And if you can just kind of master these 6 stages, set the tone and kick off the call, tell them how the call is going to go and get their consent, understand and discover their current situation and really get a very clean understanding of where they're at now and why they don't want to be there anymore. Understand where they want to get and why getting there is important to them. Help you get a clear understanding of why they can't get there on their own without you or somebody like you that has the money to buy, and then enroll them based on what they've shared about why they'd be willing to buy themselves, the golden question as I call it, and then enroll them based on the things that you've learned about them and what's important to them based on the questions they're asking. This is how I've sold millions upon millions upon millions of dollars on the internet of coaching services, and I hope that this has been a valuable video for you. If you want the script that we use, that link will be in the description to download that. It kind of goes through some of these stages a little bit, but moreover, what I want you to do is, think about your sales system and really just digest this video, come back to it when your sales are a little bit lagged, and just understand, look, as valuable as this video might have been for you, it's going to be so much more valuable to get it related to your specific business and your specific offer. And that's what we do all day. We build marketing and sales systems for coaches, consultants, agency owners. And I would really encourage you, if you found some value in this video, to just take that next step and book in a meeting with us using the link in the description below. Or you can check out, I think it's the top link. It's kind of an explainer video of what we do and how we do it and everything. So you can kind of understand that a little bit deeper as well. But I hope to continue to add value to you so that, whether independent of not or whether you become a client, these videos grow your business. Okay. But if you want to speed it up and just get to work and get to that level, get to that 6-figure a month level with your business, whatever it might look like, I'd really love to work with you. I'd love to help make that happen. But yeah, thanks for watching. And I will, I'll see you in the next video.